Good to see you, Jeffrey. Good to see you. Now, if I'm not mistaken, we met at the Herd Capital Raising event in Houston. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that was a herd. It was a hero or something like that, right?
Okay, right. Yes. Yeah, the capital raising event. And I was just there for the first day doing the other stuff they had going on with the meetup event in the evening. So I didn't stay for the whole 3 day event, but I knew that's where we had met and that's where we had made connections and everything else. So I just
Yep.
wanted to make sure that was the right person that I had in mind. Now, since
You're absolutely right.
Great. Now, since then, I have taken a look at your website. I've listened to some podcasts, watched some videos, and that's why I continued to, correspond with you. I wanted to make sure that we stayed in contact. We do, a lot of the same things, and I feel like it's always important to have other, leaders in their industry speak to, a common crowd, and my audience is kind of the people that you need to speak to. Same ones that I speak to, but it means more when it comes from somebody else. Sure. So, a lot of the people that I deal with are entrepreneurs that have got small businesses they've raised, for the last 5, 10, 15 years, and they're kind of at that exit point. They're ready to move on to the next phase of life for whatever reason it happens to be. And, that's kind of where valuing their business comes in. It's like, well, what do I want to do with this? First of all, half of them don't know they can sell till we tell them they can. And then it's how do I, go about figuring out what's a real price and really do myself some justice, not undervalue or overprice myself and actually be able to exit. So before we go any further in that conversation, would you like to introduce yourself, your company, and what it is that you do in this industry, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to say that we're really in the business valuation and consulting group because we really do help people that are in pre-revenue with just an idea on the back of a napkin or a concept that they put together in a PowerPoint presentation, and it looks like it's got some traction and it's got enough information and enough interest from people that all of a sudden it's time to go start getting investors. So
Certainly.
I've worked with clients at that age, from that phase, and I call them that age. I mean, they're hardly born yet. They're barely out of the womb, and then all the way up to that point where we're working with a $1 billion company that's looking for its maybe second or third exit now,
Sure.
because it's been sold to a private equity group, and that private equity group is looking for another exit to somebody else in the future. And so, I work with clients all in between. So every stage of life for a client. And
Wow.
what I really like to do is sit down and listen to where they're at, what they need, and try and help them where they're at. Because
Certainly.
I've got clients that are talking to me because they're not looking to sell, Christopher. They're not interested in trying to do the big exit right now. They
Sure.
like what they're doing. They enjoy what they're doing enough that they look at it kind of as like a semi-retirement,
Right.
and really, how do they do that better? What should they be looking for? Where are some potential exits or some potential acquisitions that they should be looking at, so we can help them in that area.
Right.
Really kind of put almost a corporate finance kind of a thought process in place.
Sure.
uh,
Sure.
you know how those go, right? You get
Right, you'll
that
help them move
project.
in a management team and help them roll into, acquire, do some scalability by acquisition. Sure, maybe pick up a competitor, pick up a couple of, complementary businesses, do a little roll up so that a lot of things are in house. Certainly, certainly. Now, one thing you said that actually I hadn't thought about, but and I've got a question to you on it because I think that there may be more need than I originally thought. What could you do for a startup business, for a brand new business right straight out of the gate? They've just kind of started putting things together. What is it that you do with those types of companies? Because there's nothing to value yet. There's no assets. There's no anything. They're kind of putting it together. What is it that how would you work with them?
Yeah, so I will tell you what typically we do, but then I'll tell you what we often sit down and go, we have this ability. You tell us when it's time to go ahead and start this process. But frequently, what we'll do is we'll get in and we'll tell them, we'll sit down and we'll start walking through a business plan.
Sure.
We'll start walking through financial projections. We'll
Wow.
start telling them about what cash flow projections look like. Because as you and I both know, you can have wonderful earnings and a great net income and just flowery, but man, if your clients aren't paying you, cash
That's
flow
right.
will crush you.
That's right. So you actually
And
do full
so,
business
we'll
consultation.
walk.
Right. You're walking them through the entire step. Okay. See, I wasn't quite sure about that. I only had you kind of pegged for the valuation part of it. But now that I know you actually do consultation, so you'll walk them from beginning, from baby step. And then I'm sure some of that goes into helping them build for sellability, for an exit plan.
Yes, absolutely. And Christopher, I mean, that's what you've got your name in there as. Do you go by Chris or Christopher? I forgot which you prefer.
It depends on who I'm talking to. Either one's fine. Chris is pretty much most of the family. Business wise, I've got to say
Okay.
Christopher, but it's fine. Chris is good. We're wonderful with Chris if you like.
Okay. Well, I just didn't want to call you the wrong name.
But all right,
I go by Jeffrey. I told people you can call me Jeffrey, just don't call me late for dinner.
there you go.
So so really, we will get there and we'll walk with the client wherever they're at, because frequently what the next stage is either going and getting financing from a bank, or maybe going and there's an investor that comes up and says, yeah, hey, listen, I'll take 25% of your business for X dollars.
Certainly.
And the client will come back to us and they'll go, does this sound like a good deal? And I go, well, that's valuing it at such and such. We
Right.
think we have a value here. Maybe there's a gap to close. Or, somebody will go, I need to bring a key person on. And in
Sure.
order to bring that key person on, we gotta give them some kind of incentive compensation in the form of stock.
Certainly.
And what does that look like? Well, we often talk with people. I do expert witness testimony as well. And I'll tell you, one of the surest ways to get in an argument is to go into a relationship without getting it documented.
Sure. Certainly so.
Um,
Certainly. Now,
just,
a question
nobody
on that,
ever,
because
yeah,
you have a network and you deal with businesses that are coming, going, scaling, and everything else in all these sizes. Are you able to potentially help your clients facilitate those needs? Like if they need an operator in a certain industry, would you kind of have a little database or a network of people that you kind of deal with, or is that kind of something you just leave them to do?
no, I have helped place CFOs. I've got a client right now that's probably in the process of exiting, and so he wants me to help him kind of put some of his good key people in places. And people call me from Florida. Look,
Love it.
I got one right now trying to help somebody, and it's just I love that part of the business that I get to say, yeah, listen, I don't get to charge you for this, but let me help you.
Sure, the orchestrating and facilitating, I do too on the back end. As a matter of fact, before we go too much further here, if there are two types of people that I could introduce you to, who would they be?
I will tell you, business attorneys,
Okay,
to people who are right there doing, that know when the
interested in
transaction
M
is
and A.
happening or when they need evaluation. And then, CFOs and CEOs that are looking to have their business valued for any number of reasons.
Okay. 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 Well, I'll keep that in mind. And if you don't mind, I will keep your contact information and post it when I put together a little video here so that anybody who is interested in what you do and having some of your services, they can at least have a way to contact you. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Love it.
Great, great, great. Now, I tell you what does partnership with you look like for a small time business guy? Now, and the reason I say small time, most of the business owners that we deal with are in businesses between anywhere from a $500,000 a year mark to the 3 million. We're hoping for five, but really most of the people that we deal with are like kind of the 1 to 3. So, is there what? Hang on, I lost my train of thought on that one. But anyway, as a small business owner, what could you advise them to do to make sure that their business is ready to sell, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty extensive list, Christopher. So I will tell you that when we sit down, there's a different there's a different kind of a path that we go down as they answer questions. And my first thing is, and I would offer this to anybody, is I'll sit down with you for up to 90 minutes for free, and
Sure.
we'll go through an initial assessment, and we'll give you somewhat of an idea. If you've got revenues and you've got positive earnings, and you can
Right.
tell me, a few poignant points of information, for instance, your industry that you think you operate in, and let's talk about the number of employees that you have. We can usually come back with a pretty good estimate of where your value is going to be.
Great.
And then from there, what we also can do is I tell people you're going to get three things, but it's kind of like golf. You might get a fourth one, but you don't really want it, right? It's a par three. It's what you're really going for here. And what you really want to do is you want to find out what the value of the business is today,
Sure.
what it could be worth in the future, and the what's causing the gap. What's the difference between the value today and the value that could be in the future?
Sure. Sure.
Now that fourth stroke that sometimes people get on the card that they don't want, it's that par three that you're hoping to kind of break even on, so the rest of the game comes together for you. Is that if you get that fourth stroke, it's sometimes a stop the presses, let's go take care of this, and I call that the red flag.
Sure.
Christopher, we had one this last summer. It was a red flag where somebody told me that they didn't know where they didn't know where their accountant was. Oof. And I said, well, you mean you don't know where your financials are at? Because I had asked them about the tax returns, and they said, no, we physically don't know where our accountant is at.
Oh,
and I
no.
said, okay, so I'm assuming that you haven't filed for this year yet. They're
Sure.
like, no, and we need help to do that fast. Like, okay, yeah, red flag, we got to get on this.
That's it. So you really do help
yeah,
them with it all.
Yeah, I would just.
Okay.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Yes, so you really do just kind of help them with whatever it needs. I mean, I guess you've been in this for so long, you know what the next little caveat is, and as they come across them, you're able to kind of facilitate that. That's really helpful. So, what does a partnership look like for a business with you? I mean, you said you do the assessment. And then you work through. Is there like a monthly deal that you go through, or is it a weekly session? How do you work with your clients on that level, on the consulting level?
Yeah, great question. And what we like to tell people is what do you need?
Sure.
Because we're gonna sit down. We're gonna talk with you about what you might need. You very well may need us to walk through a evaluation process with you so that you now know what to offer, how much percentage of your stock you're willing to, or how much percentage of your company you're actually willing to provide to that key person, that key employee.
Sure.
We'll also help and give you some ideas as far as if we find red flags. For instance, if you have got a person who's really in the business and they are the business, and if you didn't have that person, that business would not be in business, right?
Sure.
We call that key person risk. That's the fancy word of saying that. And what you do at that point, sometimes you just have to have that conversation with the business owner and you go, ma'am, we got to train somebody.
Right.
You've got to get a team around you because you can't keep doing this for the rest of your life. You may want to, but it may come a day where you can't.
Sure.
And what do we do then? So, we're not always the ones in there helping them do that, Christopher. Sometimes we'll get in that situation and we'll go, and we know somebody. Or we reach back out to the person who may have introduced them to us and go, listen, we need somebody who's really, really wise in the digital marketing space.
Sure.
And the brand and the imaging. And I will tell you that as a finance guy, as a valuation guy, I just look there and I go, yeah, that's way too deep of water for me. We're going to go find professionals.
Certainly. Well, I'll tell you, I think as far as my questions for you, I think I've kind of asked them. I wanted to know exactly what it is you do in the industry, and how you could help, the people that are listening. Also, could you give me a little rundown of actually who you are? Because I listened to this on a couple of podcasts and I thought your credentials were pretty great. And the rundown of who you are as a Jeffrey Brewster. Could you give us a little enlightenment there?
Sure. Yeah. I'll go. I'll give you a little bit of childhood. People go, oh, I don't need that, but it kind of plays into this, right? Because I was this fifth grader that had a grandfather that read the Wall Street Journal in front of me in a family small business, right?
Sure.
So I'm working in this family small business in the greenhouse, watching my grandfather, who's a sixth grade educated Depression era, family started out in the coal mine, and here he is. I look at him; he's the most successful businessman that I know in my life at the time, right?
Sure.
So I'm paying attention, and so I start reading the Wall Street Journal with him in fifth grade. So literally in junior high, I'm not talking to my teachers in normal way. My teachers are talking to me about stocks, and we're talking about bonds
Love
and
it.
things like this. And so, I had one industrial arts teacher just sit there and shake his head. He goes, most kids your age are more interested in girls. He goes, you're interested in stocks and bonds. He
Stocks
goes,
and
you got to.
bonds. And look at you now. Look at you now. That's all you can say. Sometimes you can just say thank you for my upbringing. That's it. Really. I mean, there's so many people that just
Yes.
don't have the opportunity in life to have that in their environment. And when that's something that is taught to someone from an early age, that's invaluable. It's gold. I'm telling you. I myself, I came from a little small town in West Texas, and the idea of owning any portion of a company was that didn't even exist. That didn't even exist. It's you go to school, get a job, and go to work somewhere, take care of your family. And there's not even a college or a university anywhere near there. So it's really, that's it. You go to high school, you go out and get a job, get married, and have a family. And that's what you do. Yeah, you go to work for somebody. Yeah. So I love hearing these kind
Yeah.
of stories.
Yeah. That was the American way, right, Christopher? I mean, that's what my dad taught me. My dad taught me to go. He's a great worker. He's a
Sure.
great employee. And he said every day that you get to show up and you get to work, he goes, you look at your employer and you say, thank you for the opportunity.
That's it.
And you get going. Um, and so that was my upbringing too. And as a business owner, and the opportunity. I mean, I'm sorry, I have the best. I don't even call it a job anymore. I
It's
mean,
right.
I laugh and
It's
I go.
life.
People go, well, how you work pretty hard, and I go, no, I'm half semi-retired. This is too much fun. I mean, they're paying me to do this. I can't believe it.
Sure, sure,
um,
sure.
so I just it's a great opportunity, and as a business owner, having grown up in that small business, that what you just described as your client base is the greenhouse I grew up
Gotcha.
in. Where lunch the lunch meeting was who's bringing in the soup the next day, kind of a thing, right?
That's
and
it.
and you sat around and it mixed. Like I can't tell you the number of times that Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas dinners got mixed into business dinners that turned into full blown boardroom.
Wow.
Sometimes boardroom fights. I got to be honest with you, but um, it just melds together. And I just sit there, and so many business owners look at me like, well, you probably have a hard time understanding this. And I look at them, I go, no, this is what I was raised in.
Wow. Wow. No, you're a fortunate individual. Well, I tell you, Jeffrey, it has been a pleasure hearing, your story on that. Before I take up any more of your time, is there anything that you would like to add? Something that you would just like to let the audience know? Could be a call to action.
Yeah,
Could be a
I tell
simple fact.
people, yeah, yeah. Call to action is really, if I call it the five fingers evaluation, right? If you hit any one of these where you need your company valued for any reason, that's kind of the one that people think about. Oh, buy, sell. Well, there's also other reasons for really getting a valuation,
Getting
and those are,
financing.
you're sitting
Yeah.
there trying to do some planning.
Sure.
You want to do some. Does it make sense to do this? Does it make sense to jump in on a project?
Sure.
Um, and then you sit there and you go, okay, I've done a great job, but now I got to do some financial reporting because I've got to go tell the bank how good this company is. I got to tell the bank about my balance sheet and
Yep.
intangible assets on that. So we call that kind of the financial reporting aspect
Sure.
of it. And then there's kind of the two inevitables. If you ever get into a litigation situation, I just did, unfortunately, a bankruptcy trial last week. So I've testified in different kinds of what I would call litigation matters.
Sure.
Bankruptcy is one of them. Business divorces, marital divorces. Those are the unfortunate situations that
Sure.
happen. And then there's just the inevitable, right? What do they say? Death and taxes.
Right.
And, I happen to have experience in both of those, helping people through the valuation process for tax purposes and estate and tax planning. So, any of those five fingers of valuation that show up, give us a call.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jeffrey. I appreciate your time. I know it's valuable, and I'm going to let you get back to your hard work and semi-retired day.
Thanks so much,
Yes,
Christopher.
sir. I'll keep up with you on the back end, and I'll be sure to shoot you a link over to the video once I get everything taken care of. I really just like to have a conversation, and then after that, I kind of put it together as something. Really, I'm not a great podcast host, video host, or anything else. I just like to have fun putting things out there. And hey, the more content you create, the better, right?
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. Yeah, happy to. And then I tell people that the story continues. You're like, how do we strategize for maximizing tax deferral? We help clients do that too as well. So that's the continuing of the story.
Well, you know what? That's good to know. Any of these topics, are there any topics that you do like a little 30-minute, 45-minute, hour little spiel on sometimes? Do you ever do those little meetings or anything or a little anything at all? The reason I ask is I try to put together at least once a month within my group, and there's never more than about 6 or 7 people. I'll tell you that. It's never a lot. But I try to bring them together to learn something from some industry expert that has something to tell them, something of value in education. And they're really all in different industries. They're all small business owners that are in various stages of their life. But it's good to hear, even if it's something they could do to scale their little company or something they could do to think about before they exit, because some of them are getting there. Or, sometimes it's just they need to talk to know that they're not alone in their life because you've seen what other people go through. And it's nice to say, hey, are you going through XYZ? You're not alone. I deal with people all the time that do this, that, and the other thing. And by the time they're in with a 45-minute call, even if they didn't say anything at all, they got to hear that other people live life. So, would that be something you're interested in an invitation to guest speak?
Yeah, absolutely. I speak publicly at least once a month, sometimes 3 or 4 times a month.
Really? Well, if you have any links to anything that I could do that, I'll put all that together and make it look beautiful for anything that you do.
Great. I appreciate that.
Hey, I appreciate you being here and helping me provide content. But when I don't have a lot of content myself, I mean, some of this is I can tell these people whatever I want to till I'm blue in the face. But really, you need other people that are validated, that they can look up credentials and say, hey, this person says the same thing he says. It must be. Or if there's a service they need. I'm not trying to provide any of those services. Oh no, that's not what I'm doing. I talk about buying and selling businesses and kind of walk them through that process and give them the coaching mentally. As far as doing the services, I like to pair with experts that I can send in that direction. I looked for 3 months for a local company that does corporate filings, right? Just a local company to do it. Nobody would take my calls, would talk to me without some kind of, exorbitant amount of money down to talk to me. Finally, I said, okay, inkfile.com. There you go. I'll just get an affiliate link. I mean, if I can't deal with somebody, I'll go find a company that I can do something with. But that's really what I would rather have is human beings that I can direct people to. I do my little newsletter, and it's pretty regular basis, 3, 4 times a week. And it's nice to be able to say, hey, guys, I know y'all are all part of my private network. If you're interested in this, I just had a fantastic call with Jeffrey Brewster. Here's a video. And if you're interested in any of these 5 services, at least you might want to talk to him too. And here's his contact information. Little things like that. That's what I try to do in this space, Jeffrey.
Yeah. Yeah. And Christopher, let me tell you, as part of that consulting, as you get to that point where you're doing your exit, I can't tell you the number of times I've sat at the deal table and watched sellers just absolutely be appalled at the amount of money they're going to pay in taxes.
I've never
And I've
sold
always said
one
to
yet.
myself, I wish there was a way that I could help clients at that stage.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
glad to
yeah.
know
So
that.
you work so hard, and then all of a sudden,
Well, let me ask the question
yeah.
on
So
that.
happy to talk to you clients about that.
If you have a, okay, like for me, that's is there a 1031 or a like kind exchange where you can just roll into another business and not be paying the capital gains? Is that possible? Something around that?
Christopher, yes,
Okay,
yeah, you can do that. I can also help you strategize and then bring attorneys in, bring the tax professionals in to
sure.
show you how to maximize the tax deferral while you have the flexibility and not have the time crunch that you would have with a 1031.
Sure. Okay, great. See, that's something I've actually looked for. And I'll tell you what, if I could get a referral to anybody at all or get introduced to anyone, that would be some tax strategists, people that actually strategize with you, not just file your stuff. I mean, I can file my stuff. I need someone to go over what needs to be done and then let them be the one. If you have some people in
Yeah,
your Rolodex
yeah,
that you wouldn't mind shooting over an email address or making a third party or a three-party introduction, that'd be fantastic. I'd appreciate it. But that's really all I'm looking for right now. That and media attention.
yeah. Yeah, Christopher. Yeah, so I'll tell you, I'm your point person on the tax strategy side because what I'll do is I have aligned with Nexus International,
Huh.
and so we basically have a whole group behind us. Jeff Wagner is one of the attorneys that I work with pretty regularly.
Okay.
Our tax professional that I'm working with on my own stuff, James Aquila. We're going through that right now. I know. It's the mechanic's car runs the worst. And yes, I know I've got 11 days in 2023 to get this all done, but I was working for everybody else.
Sure, sure, sure. No, well, thank you for that. And I will stay in contact with you for sure. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to, in my CRM, I'm going to try to put another note by your name so that I remember when it goes to trying to make certain connections. It gets hard sometimes. I mean, I've probably got 4 or 5,000 people in that damn thing. It's just hard to keep in mind who's who. And
Wow.
well, and I tell you, Jeffrey, 3 years ago, hell, I was homeless, sleeping in a sleeping bag on the other side of a just an encampment on the other side of a Walmart on the outside of a town. Now I've got equity share in 12 different businesses. I only work at one of them. And now my business is pretty much teaching people how to buy and sell businesses. So it's amazing how,
Wow. That's
but
fantastic.
yeah,
What a
but
great story, man. I'm going to have you on my show sometime here soon.
well, okay. Now, actually, I didn't realize that you had your own show. Okay, I saw the podcast that you were on. You had multiple episodes with the same guy. I think David Kidder, I think what his name was. And then you
Yeah,
had
Kidder.
right, and then I saw a few just individual videos that were YouTube, but I didn't know you had your own thing going on. Please, any link you want to send me, send that link, and I'll make sure I post everything for you.
Thanks so much. Yeah, next week, probably a couple of weeks, it'll get out there. We'll have some post production work to do on it, but I'm actually kicking off the best of the best. And my first guest is going to be my own mom.
Love it.
And that greenhouse I'm telling you about.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful to hear that family story, the actual real deal. This is how Jeffrey was when he was a little boy. Oh, I can't wait. Well, thank you for your time, sir. I'm going to go ahead and let you have the rest of your afternoon free to do as you want to do. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas. Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.